is up? Oh my goodness. Man, look at this production. How awesome is this? So good to see all of you guys. This is incredible. Just incredible. Now I'm going to ask you guys a question. Do you ever have the feeling that you just know you're exactly where you're meant to be? Do you ever feel that? Anybody feel that? That's the way I'm feeling to be here, right now, with all of you guys. This is exciting. If you guys are excited, come on, give it up, make some noise. Let's go. Make some noise. I know you can. That's right. I'm excited to be here with the future firefighters of America. That's right. And guys, it's a good time because wildfires have been out of control. When I see your red jackets, I'm reminded that just this last year, we had over 64,000 wildfires in Wait a minute. That's not right. Hang on, guys. Something's not right here. Can I just make a quick phone call for a second? Is that okay? Just a quick call? Hang on. Yeah, hey, Gary, what's up? It's me. Yeah, no, their jackets, they're all blue. They're not red. Oh, the FFA used to stand for future farmers, not firefighters. Well, gee, that would have been good to know before I got on stage. You know what? Forget. I'll figure something out. Okay, hang on. Sorry about that, guys. That was my idiot agent, Gary, who apparently booked me for the wrong convention. But don't worry about it. We're here. We can make the most of this. We'll just use the power of Photoshop to turn those red jackets into blue jackets. Perfect. Problem solved. I'm kidding. I'm joking. It's good to be here, guys, with the Colorado FFA. And I hear that you have a lot to celebrate. First of all, could it really be true that you have 10,000 members in the state of Colorado? Is that true? 10,000? See, that gives me hope for the future because it tells me that there's at least 10,000 people in Colorado who know that food isn't something that just comes from a drive-through. You know what I'm saying? That's a big deal. And there's another number that I know can't be right. Could it really be true you have 1 million members nationally? Is that right? No way. And I think we even have a national officer in the house. Abby Jacobson is joining us. That's right. Give it up, guys. Your national officers, your state officers, y'all are killing the game. Now it's official, you officially have more fans than Home Depot during a heat wave. That's a lot of fans. You now have more followers than Mr. Beast's dog's third YouTube channel. You know, the podcast one where all he barks about is politics? Yeah, that one. So why am I here with you today? Well, it's easy. I'm here because your state treasurer, Aiden Dattery, he found me behind a gas station in Durango, Colorado, and I'll do anything for half a pack of cigarettes. Guys, that's a joke. It was a full pack of cigarettes. No, I don't even smoke, and you shouldn't either. Smoking is very, very bad, right? Now, I'm here because I'm obsessed with the idea that our life is one big story. And as fun as it is to tell nice stories and to tell nice jokes, it's even more fun to live a good story. So I'm going to break my talk down into 4 parts with you. I'm going to talk to you about following your truth in a very noisy world. I'm going to share with you my weird rule for making big life decisions. And then I'm going to share some of the silly stories from my own life. It can get very personal, I'm warning you. And then I'm going to talk to you about how you can live a good story. And all of this, by the way, is from an admittedly very terrible role model. Sorry about that. Now, I'm trying to gauge the temperature of the room here. I want you to raise your hand if you know what you're going to do with the next big step of your life. Whatever it is, the next big thing, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. All right, that's a pretty good number. These guys got it figured out. Everybody come find them the next few days. Okay, now raise your hand if you're not quite sure what you should do next with the next big thing in your life. You don't know what school you should go to, what career you should, you're not quite sure what you should do. All right, we got a handful there. Nice, not bad. All right, now I want you to raise your hand if you feel, generally speaking, that the choices that you make matter, that you can change your life based on what you do or do not do. Raise your hand. That's a lot of people in this room. All right, now raise your hand if you're sick and tired of people in suits asking you to raise your hand repeatedly. All right, fair enough. Well, what we're really going to talk about today, we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about choices and stories, and how if we play our cards right, the choices that we make today can add up to a life story that we can be truly, truly proud of. So when I see your red, blue jackets, I feel like I already know something about you. I feel like I know that you're smart. I feel like I know that you've got a good head on your shoulders, and that you already see what is important. And outside of this arena, that is not only very special, it is also very rare. Now, in keeping with the real origins of the actual FFA, I'm going to use the metaphor of a tree today to describe the story of our lives. Because if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I love trees. Hey, that's not fair. All right, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. Now, you all know what this is, right? This is a family tree. You had to make a diagram like this in 4th grade, right? Your family tree is a list of all the possibly questionable decisions that other people made that led to you being born, that led to you being here, right now. And I know what you're thinking. It's a dang good thing that Aunt Gladys and Uncle Buford didn't hook up. Otherwise, you'd be the one with those crazy-looking eyes, you know what I'm saying? Yikes. Watch out. Wouldn't want that. So if your family tree is all the choices that other people made that led to you being here, I'm going to suggest to you that from this moment forward, it's your decision tree that is going to define the shape and story of your life. Every single choice you make is going to build either a branch on that tree or a twig on that tree, and you don't always know which is which in the moment. But here's what we do know. If you follow that path over to the right, you're probably going to become President of the United States. That sounds pretty cool. That might want to figure that one out, right? But what if you make some different choices in life? Then selling life advice behind a gas station in Durango for cigarettes. Maybe that's not so nice. Just saying, maybe not. But as you build the story of your life, you're going to find some unusual things start to happen. Some of the branches you build are going to break. Sometimes they're going to grow crooked and sideways, and they're going to appear to take you farther away from your goal. Sometimes your whole tree is going to burn to the ground. We call those days Mondays. Geez, sorry about that. But sometimes, every now and again, things are going to work out exactly the way that you had hoped. So we all know that this is an amazing moment in time. The energy in this room, in this crowd, it's unbelievable. This is clearly the place to be right here, right now. That's obvious. But what are the decisions that we need to make from here forward to build the best possible version of our life? What are the decisions that we need to make right now to make sure that we're happy, content, and fulfilled? Because I assume that that is what we all want, to be happy, content, and fulfilled, right? Now, I'm going to put it to you that some of this you can control. The choices you make, you can control. That's the branches of your life story. But the other part you can't control. That's the roots. That's who you are. That's who you were born to be. And your life is a combination of those two things. But fortunately, your roots in the FFA, especially here in Colorado, are some of the very best I've ever seen. And you should be very proud of that. That's right. Give it up. You should be proud. So now let's talk about what it means to follow your truth in a very noisy world. Now, it's no secret that we live in the noisiest time in human history. We live in an age of constant digital distraction. In fact, in the time it took me to say that out loud, I got 10 text messages, 6 Slack DMs, 5 Instagram notifications, and 10 TikTok messages, mostly from my mom telling me that she doesn't like my face yet again. Now listen, Mom, I get it, okay? I do. But my face is your fault, Mom. This is your fault, okay? Yeah, it's been a tough life, guys, very tough. And there's so many voices out there that are competing for our attention. So many choices and so many voices. Who should we listen to? Who should we follow? And how do we know if we're on the right track? One of the voices says you need to invest all your money into crypto, bro, and then you'll be happy. Another voice says you should sell all of your possessions and go meditate under a tree somewhere. That's the path to happiness. Still, a third voice says that you need to live stream on Twitch 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, collecting that sweet, sweet Big Ag sponsorship money. A lot of choices out there, a lot of choices, a lot of options, and you could go any way you choose. And by the way, it's also a pretty great time to be young and alive, isn't it? With sky-high housing costs in the state of Colorado, sky-high college tuition costs, and inexplicable TikTok bans that last less than 24 hours. What happened there? I don't know. You know, you'd be forgiven for thinking that maybe the adults running the show don't always know what's best for kids. You'd be forgiven for thinking that. And there's just so much noise out there, so much noise. Noise coming at us from screens, from TVs, from speakers, noise all around us all the time. And that noise contains something valuable, but it's hard to find, and that something is called truth. But if we're not careful, all of the noise out there becomes noise in here, and it fills our head with noise as well. But inside all of the noise in your head is another elusive thing called your truth. Now, at this convention, we're here to find, sprout, and grow your truth with other like-minded people who share your mission and who share your values. Together, you can help tune out all of the noise and distractions and stay focused on the truth that matters most to you. And fortunately, in this room, you already know the truth, so that part is easy. You've chosen not to follow the glitz, the glamour, and the follower count, and instead you've chosen to focus yourself on something real, on the seed, the sunshine, and the soil. And again, outside of these walls, that is not only extremely special, that is extremely rare. So now they say when you give a speech like this, you have to open up, you have to share a little bit about yourself, to be vulnerable, to connect with the audience a little bit. So I'm going to share a secret with you that I've never shared to anybody before my entire life, okay? So please be gentle. I like food. I like food. Feels good to say that out loud. I like food. And I like food almost so much that I eat it almost every day. That's how much I like food. That's how addicted I am to food. And I had to make a video with AI to illustrate my addiction. You know, AI is really close, gang. It's close. It just can't quite get some of the details right. It's almost there. Are any of you secretly addicted to food as well? Anybody else addicted to food out here? You eat it? Almost. We got some people that's addicted to food. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Well, you know, when you have an addiction, you start researching that addiction. You want to look up some things to find out some more information about it. So I started learning about where food comes from. And apparently, food does not come from a cell phone. Who knew? And food does not come from a badly aging millennial in a suit yelling at you, wasting precious moments of your valuable life that you'll never get back. No. That's not where food comes from either. Apparently, food comes from the ground, from the soil, right here in Colorado. Now, I know that now, and you know that, and everybody in this arena knows that. So why do only 10,000 people in the state of Colorado know that? Well, food is something that most of us normies take for granted, if I'm being honest. And I assume that that's what you call outsiders like me. Is it normies or is it townies? Hippies? Losers? All right, losers like me, we assume that food will always be there. We assume that the shelves will always be full. We assume that restaurants will always be affordable. We assume that somebody out there somewhere is solving the problem of agriculture because I know I can't be bothered. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you all are the someones out there for the rest of this state and for the rest of this country. Without being too dramatic, you might say that you are the thin blue corduroy line that keeps idiots like me alive. That's right, you. That's right, you can cheer for that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's important. That's right. And in high school, you already see what's important more than most adults ever will. You've set your sights on something so valuable in agriculture that the very fate of our species depends on it. That's how important it is. And again, outside of these walls, I'd say that that is not only very special, it is also a little bit rare. And the question then becomes, now what? Some of you know exactly what you're going to do, some of you don't. But this simple question is trickier than it seems. There's a lot of different options out there, a lot of things that you could do from this moment forward in time. For example, you could drop out of school? Or should you go to college? Which college should you go to? Should you take over the family farm, family ranch, family business? Who knows? Should you go to Harvard, steal an idea for a social media company, become a cruel billionaire, sue everybody into the ground, displace 1 million native Hawaiians to build your 7-mile-long beach tech bro hangout? I don't know. A lot of options, a lot of things that you could do. A lot of things. But you're going to ask these questions a lot. This question in particular, the older you get as you go through life. But what makes it so tricky is that there's no right answer to this question. For example, how safe should you be? How original? How serious? How funny? There's no right answer to that. It's all about defining who you are. These questions keep even the very best and brightest of us up at 3 in the morning in a cold sweat. So now I'm going to break the ice here. I'm going to share with you my general answer to the question of now what whenever I'm stuck. And I'm going to share with you my unusual rule for making big life decisions. And when I share you a little bit about my past, you'll understand why I will never be as cool as Windsor Lighty or Sheldon Collin. That's impossible. That's impossible for a guy like me. But a man can dream, y'all. A man can dream. Now, people don't know this about me, but I've actually always been a farmer. You see, here's me mowing the lawn at age 15. Wait, that's not right. No, that's not right. I haven't always been a farmer. I've always been a weirdo. That's what it is. Funny how it slipped my mind. You know, people used to say that I was a regular J.B. Mooney, except instead of riding bulls professionally, I rode unicycles, which I'm told is almost as cool. It's almost as cool. That's right. And that's how you become the first person ever to unicycle down Steamboat Mountain in Steamboat Springs, Colorado at the age of 16. Oh yes, hashtag babe magnet right there. Oh yeah. Now where are my ladies at? Can I get a yeah from all the ladies? Ladies, if there's one thing you take away from this whole speech, if there's one thing you take away from this whole convention, please let it be this, okay? Remember this. It takes twice the man to ride half the bike, okay? And don't you forget that. Don't you forget that. No. No, I was never interested in what the other cool kids were doing. I was never interested in the popular kids. I was the kid solving Rubik's Cubes and bringing calculator games into class instead of paying attention. Yes, Mr. A1, super cool guy talking to you right now. But I share my weirdness with you to help you think a little bit better about your own lives and feel better about yourself, and also to remind you that you have options when it comes to the game of life. So this right here, this has been the guiding principle of my entire life. This is my mantra. Whenever I've been stuck, whenever I didn't know what to do, I just asked what would make a good story, and that's what I did. That's it. This is the truth. This is what I've always done my entire life. Now, before we get into the juicy details here, I don't share any of what follows to brag, because I know for a fact that you're all more intelligent, incredible, and impactful human beings than I am. But since I was given this microphone, in error, I can only assume, tremendous mistake, I'm going to fill up my time with some hardcore jibber-jabbering. Because I've always been fascinated for as long as I can remember by two ideas. One, the story that is our lives. Whether we realize it or not, we're building that story day by day, action by action, and choice by choice. And two, the will they, won't they of human survival. You know what I'm talking about when I say that? Will our science and technology and all of the people in this room save our species? Or will our ecosystem collapse into a barren wasteland? I don't know. I've always asked myself that question. Sometimes I like to imagine that an alien species might be watching planet Earth like a Netflix drama or the latest season of The Bachelorette. Who knows how it's going to end? It's a real nail-biter. It could go either way. But I've also had other, more empowering thoughts. For example, I've always believed, like all of you who raised your hand in the beginning, that we do have the power to shape our reality based on the choices that we make. I believe that we as a group, but also we as individuals, have tremendous power to shape our reality based on what we do or do not do. And that's the kind of thought that keeps us going, and that's the kind of thought that keeps us growing. See what I did there? Not too bad, right? I even made a shirt that's got a couple weak claps, got a couple loose claps on that one. That's nice. I even had thoughts like this since before I graduated from high school over 20 years ago from Aurora, Colorado. A-Town represent. Anybody from Aurora out there? No, that's pretty far away. A-Town. I even made a short film about this exact concept my junior year of high school, and the cinematography is outstanding. It's brilliant. What a great film that was. Yeah. Thank you. It's not deserved. Definitely not deserved. I've also believed, this is silly me, that on my deathbed, I might take some comfort in thinking about all the silly stories that I accrued during my life, and that might make me feel just a little bit better about letting go of my brief moment on this pale blue dot that we call home. Now, some years later, I discovered Bronnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And in that book, the number one regret of dying human beings was this: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Now that's counterintuitive. Of all the things that people could regret, at the end of it all, the number one thing is that they wish that they'd been true to themselves. To me, that tells us three very important things. First of all, it tells us that being ourselves is an act of courage, maybe even an act of defiance, maybe even an act of rebellion, might even mean dropping some forks, stage left, who knows? Could be a lot of things. But it also tells us that maybe it's easier to be who somebody else wants us to be than it is to be ourselves. And lastly, it tells us that maybe all of the best things in life are on the other side of finding the courage to just be ourselves. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty powerful. So with these ideas, this face, and that upbringing swirling through my head my whole life, I've always asked, what would make a good story? And that's what I did. That's it. And by now you're wondering, where did that get me exactly? All right, fair enough, fair enough. I know it's almost time to eat, and I know we all can't wait for Tyler Halverson, and I get it, because that man is so talented. I understand, yes. Can't wait either. Well, let's go. And by the way, I told my therapist that I would never do this again, so this is it. This is the last time, I promise, the last time. I'm going to share some of the silly stories from my life from that principal, okay? Here we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. So my junior year, my sophomore year in college, just up the road, Colorado College, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Colorado kid, born and raised. I saved up just enough money selling cell phones at Sprint to buy a one-way plane ticket to Australia. But I had $0 in my bank account, so I had to wash dishes illegally that summer at an Indian restaurant in Perth until I could buy another one-way plane ticket to Peru, where I spent the rest of that summer. Now, that is a very stupid decision, very stupid, but it is a pretty good story. My junior year in college, I studied abroad in Maastricht, the Netherlands, after seeing exactly one pamphlet of the city before I went there. I knew nothing of the language, the country, or the culture before I got on a plane to go live there. That is also very dumb. But it is a pretty good story. While I was there, I met a Dutch girl, so I just didn't come home on my plane ticket bag. It didn't come home. I stayed there. I love the cowbells. That's so awesome. Fantastic. I stayed there, but I still had zero money, so I had to live that summer in a hobbit cave with a leaky roof, no refrigerator, off of dried lentils and dried macaroni donated to me by the other American exchange students who left. Now, that is either incredibly romantic or incredibly idiotic. I'll let you decide. But it is, I've been told, a pretty good story. So the first job that I could get over there with no money was teaching English at a prestigious language institute known lovingly as the Nuns, because historically all of the teachers were in fact nuns. So as you can see, I fit right in. There I got to teach high-level business English and presentations to European executives and celebrities, and every day for 5 years, I got to hear some phenomenal business stories. But on the side, I was writing pop songs, like this one, for the Japanese Madonna, I guess? I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I have no clue how this happened. I really don't. But it did. And that's a pretty silly story. And I was able to parlay that into forming a DJ duo with pink and purple cat masks. And we toured around Europe for a while. No, I couldn't see out of those glasses. Yes, they were hot as heck in those masks. We toured around the country. We did a bunch of shows. We even had a song on Dutch national radio that I sang on. And I assure you, I'm a terrible, terrible singer. I have no idea how that happened, but it is a pretty good story. Now, after years of struggle, years of hard work, I finally became fluent in the language of Dutch, and I had a job working at one of the top record labels in Amsterdam. So what did I do? The only logical thing to do. I got rid of all of my possessions, and I moved to Hollywood, California, with nothing more than 2 suitcases and 2 cats as carry-on. And I swear that that is true. And then look at the result. Oh, married on the beach. So sweet. Oh, my goodness. Oh, what a time. Now, shortly after arriving in Hollywood, California, somebody asked me if I wanted to do a DJ tour of mainland China, a place I knew nothing about and had never been. So, of course, I said yes, leading to moments like this. In case you didn't know, I was the guy going woo, woo, woo all the time. I don't know why I did that, but they seemed like, I don't even know where that video was taken, but what I do know is this. About a week after that, I got horrible food poisoning, terrible, terrible food poisoning, somewhere in the middle of China. And I was in a spa village in the outskirts of Chongqing, China, and there was this rusty tower that was overlooking the entire valley. And somebody said on the 3rd day I was there, nobody was up there the entire time I was there, but somebody said on the 3rd day, hey, you should bungee jump off of that. So of course I said, yes, why not?
Let's go.
Whoa! Now remember, I started all of this by saying, don't be like me, okay? My lawyers wanted to make sure I got that in there at least one more time. I know that I'm an idiot. But usually what I've noticed is there's a common thread of all these silly stories. Usually there's like a spidey sense feeling, a tingling feeling that you get when something is coming your way that might potentially be a good story. When something might be a good story or when it's just a bad idea. Have you ever felt that feeling where something might be a good story, like a wave you can catch? Have you guys ever felt that? Something you could say yes to or no to? Anybody? Yeah, that's right. Well, that's different than something that's just a bad idea. Like, don't say yes when that sketchy dude in the alleyway offers you a magic pill that'll make all your dreams come true. That's not a good story. That's just stupid. That's just bad. Don't do that. Don't say yes for the likes, the karma, or the clout. Don't say yes just because it makes good YouTube clickbait. That does not necessarily make for a good story. No, when you say yes to the choices of your life, you got to say yes for you and you alone. Because this is your life we're talking about. This is you we're talking about. You're your only judge at the end of it all. And embracing my philosophy, it's not about saying yes to everything. It's not about being an adrenaline junkie, chasing ever-increasing highs. That's not what it's about at all. It's just about being a little more open to possibilities when the universe throws something your way. It's about changing our default behavior and our default reaction from no way, that's scary, to more like Richard Branson's mantra of screw it, let's do it. Now, in my life, I've been a salesman, an English teacher, a business coach, an extra in an Ariana Grande music video, I don't know, a DJ, a moderately famous streamer on the Chinese version of Twitch, a Udemy instructor with over 27,000 students. I've been an audio engineer, a podcast host, and for the last 9 years, I've owned a digital marketing agency that helps mission-driven companies tell their story in the digital domain. Because somewhere along the way, I recognize that there are a lot of brilliant people with brilliant ideas that struggle to tell and build good stories. Now, for better or for worse, I never asked myself what would make the most money. I never asked myself what would advance my career. Certainly never asked myself what would be the safest thing. I just asked what would make a good story, and that's what I did. And you know, for much of my life, that was enough. But as I got older, I started to rethink my own maxim. Because if you really think about it, good actually kind of has two meanings. After all, a good person and a good pie, they're not quite the same thing, are they? Even though our friend ChatGPT might think that they are. You know, AI is close, gang. It's close. It's just not, it just can't get the details right. It's almost there. It's almost there. Because there are interesting good stories, and then there are faith in humanity good stories, like what the FFA is doing for our people and for our planet every single day. That's right. That's right. That's the truth. That's the truth. Because there are good stories, sure, and then there are good stories. You see what I'm saying? And you probably already figured this out, but a good story isn't necessarily a crazy story or a silly story or a stupid story. No. A good story can be as simple as turning a barren piece of land into a thriving farm. A good story can be as simple as sharing your values with the next generation that needs to hear about it. That can also be a good story. So now let's talk about what it means for you to live a good story. But before we can do that, I do have to be a little bit honest with you here. I'm proud of all the silly and stupid and wacky things that I've done in my life. I'm proud of all the moments when I was scared, when I wanted to say no to something and I found the courage to say yes, because literally all of the very best memories of my life came on the other side of that fear, including the momentous decision to have not one, but 2 children. Now, of all the stupid things I've ever done in my life, that's gotta be, what was I thinking? But anyways, I'm kidding. As George Adair said, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And my own experience has shown that to be true. But as you can imagine, doing things the way that I've done is not always amazing, obviously, right? There have been many moments when I wasn't sure how I'd pay rent, and I looked over my shoulder at my brother, who had a stable job, and he just seemed to be having a much, much easier life than me. I remember waking up in the cold on a straw mat on the floor in rural China, choking on smog and freezing, thinking to myself, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I here? Colorado boy like me, what am I doing with my life? Sometimes it's felt like I've chosen to play the game of life on expert mode for no real reason. And I think there is some truth to that, because pursuing an excellent story is seldom the easy path. In fact, doing anything of note at all is almost by definition the hard path. It's easier to not make these choices. It's easier to let somebody else make these choices for us. It is easier to live life on autopilot. It is easier to swim with the current than it is to unicycle upstream. Now, the tree of my life might look something like this. I don't know, it's weird, it's misshapen, it's kind of funky. I think there's even some weird mushrooms growing on the side, I don't know. But at least it's my life. At least it was lived true to my values, and at least it was lived in a true way to who I am. And at least, thank God, my Aunt Gladys and my Uncle Buford did not hook up. Thank God for that. Because then I'd have those crazy eyes, you know what I'm saying? It could have been a real disaster for me personally. But here's what I know about you. And here's what I know about all the people wearing the blue corduroy jacket. I know that you all claim to want to strive to lead unconditionally. Well, if you're going to lead, you're going to go places that other people haven't been before. That's what it means to lead. It means you're creating the path. It doesn't mean you're following somebody else's path, no matter what comes your way. I know you strive to do more, and I know you strive to be more than the norm. And for that, you all have my deep admiration and my deep respect. You're all good seeds, every single one of you. Well, actually, except for Chad over there. You stole my parking spot, bud, and for that I will never forgive you. But the rest of you could grow the tree of your life in a million different incredible, jaw-dropping ways. You could do anything with your life. And I can't wait to see the stories that you build with your life. I think I'm here to remind you that the next time you're not sure what to do, and the next time you're stuck at a fork in the road, there's always a third and utterly absurd and potentially wildly inappropriate other choice that maybe you just haven't yet considered. Always. So now let's talk about your future. Uh-oh. The 2 scariest words in the English language for any high schooler. Have you begun to think about your future? I hear your sister's already got a job lined up at a prestigious law firm, and what have you done with your life? When you leave here, when the energy and the excitement and all the cowbells and all the phones, when all that dies down, I gotta go. When all the dust settles, and from what I can gather, there will be dust at this convention. When all the dust settles, you might find yourself alone in the middle of the night looking a little bit like this. You might find yourself questioning yourself. You might find yourself doubting every decision that you ever made in your whole life. You might find yourself realizing in the middle of the night one day that even though 1 million FFA members is an awful lot, it's still well short of the 341 million total Americans out there. That means that the people who care deeply about agriculture in this state and in this country are a minority group. And that's a little bit sad and that's a little bit scary. And when you are in a minority group, it is important, more important than ever, that you stay true to your values and that you find other like-minded people who can help you stay close to what is important and what matters most to you. And that's what stuff like this is all about. You need to be so confident in what you're doing and what you believe in that when the jerks of this world drive by in their cars, laughing at you, throwing their beer cans at you, you need to be able to look at them square in the eye and say, hey, it takes twice the woman to ride half the bike. All right. Maybe not that exactly, but you get the point, right? You need to be so confident that you can't let one nasty Instagram or one nasty TikTok comment derail your mission and your vision, even if it is just your mom reminding you once again that you have an ugly face. Look, Mom, we get it. We all get it. So in my life, in the beginning, I asked what would make a good story. And then later, I asked what would make a good story. I've made every decision of my life. And by the way, the truth of how I ended up before you here today is actually this, because I wasn't kidding when I said I was approached by your state treasurer, Aiden Dattery. That part is true. But what he actually said to me was this. He said that coming before you today and speaking here would be a good story. And so I said yes, because apparently my life philosophy makes me incredibly easy to manipulate. Oh well. No, but in truth, I can think of no better story than to be here and to share this energy and this experience with all of you remarkable people who have bright visions and limitless potential, because this right here is what it's all about. But you don't need to make decisions the way that I did. In fact, any lawyer would probably advise you not to. You could have your own rule for making big decisions. You could just always ask, well, make the most money, and just do that. You could always ask what's best for planet Earth, do that. Say what's best for my family, what's best for my children's children, what's the best way to sit on my butt and watch 14 hours of videos a day? I don't know, there's a lot of options out there, but this is your life we're talking about. You can do anything. But what you don't want is to have no guiding principles at all. What you don't want is to let other people make these kinds of decisions for you. What you don't want is to live your life on autopilot. And as you grow, you're going to discover something about life and trying to be what you want to be. You're going to continually rediscover who you are as you go through life. And you're going to realize something, that just as a tomato seed will never grow into a pineapple, actually, you know what, maybe Monsanto is working on something like that, I'm not sure. But you'll figure out that you can never be anybody other than who you truly are. It's impossible. Your life is going to be a continual process of rediscovering yourself. And this is my prediction for everybody in this room of every age. If you embrace who you truly are, your true nature, you will thrive. And if you do not, you will suffer. It's just that simple. But unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of people never embrace their true nature, and they suffered right up until the very end. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. Now, I've been very fortunate. I've gotten to live, work with, and talk to hundreds of amazing human beings bringing good stories into the world, including the owner of this regenerative farm, who provided food for her CSA boxes for a local community and for her own organic restaurants. That's an undeniably good story. And I'm passionate about good stories in the sector of agriculture. In fact, I might even say that I'm as passionate as you guys are about agriculture. Well, maybe not as much as State Secretary Casey Jo Saffer, but she's a beast. That's a high bar. I'm never going to clear that bar. That's impossible. But you do have a choice. You have a choice always about what wisdom to accept and what wisdom to throw away. You have a choice about what you want to focus on. Do you choose to focus on what you can extract from this land? Or do you choose to focus on what you can put into it? It's your choice. Do you choose to focus on the glitz, the glamour, and the follower count? Or do you choose to focus on the seed, the sunshine, and the soil? Or maybe you choose to focus on both in a way that boomers will never understand, because you have access to tools and technologies that have never existed before. You can spread movements and share ideas like never before possible in human history. And I believe that if you're passionate about teaching consumers about your industry, if you're passionate about showing what farmer and rancher life really looks like, and if you're passionate about sharing the truth behind agricultural technologies and practices, I believe that it is your job to tell that story in the way that only you can. I believe it is your job to turn the digital and the real into something and turn that 1 million members into 2 million. ChatGPT, millillion, relilly. God, AI is so close. It's so close, but it just can't get the details right. It's almost there. Now, it's obvious, isn't it? If you live life the way that I have, you will have great stories. That's a fact. You will have a tremendous love of humanity and a global consciousness. But if you stay in the proverbial Omaha, which in our case might be more like Pueblo, Colorado, you just might become Warren Buffett. So see, folks, this is concrete proof that it pays to stay right here in Colorado. Concrete proof. Now, as you grow up in an age of constant digital distraction, I promise, and you know this already, you're going to cherish real meetings with real human beings just like this more than ever, because this is what it's all about, gang, right here, right now. This is exactly what it's all about. So here's my challenge to you as we wrap things up. My challenge is, the next time you've got a big decision and you're not really sure what you should do, consider asking, what would make a good story? Or better yet, what would make a good story? Because your story matters more than you might realize. And if you don't like the story of your life, it's not too late to change it, because you're still building that story day by day, action by action, and choice by choice. What are the decisions that you need to make today to build the best possible version of your life's tree? Because you could be literally anything you want to be. What are the decisions you need to make today so that on your deathbed, you can truthfully say, I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me? Wait, what am I saying? All of you are under the age of 21, right? Most of you, right? You're not going to die. You're going to live forever as a human cyborg in perpetual servitude to Mark Zuckerberg. So listen, guys, if you're proud to be a member of the Colorado FFA, if you know what your values and your truth are, if you're grateful for the organizers of this outstanding event, if you're grateful for your national and your state officers, and if you're excited to make some good stories with all of the remarkable human beings in this room, I want you to get as loud as you can right now. Give it up for yourselves. Come on, guys. Throw it up. Throw it up. Throw it up. That's right. That's right. Now, one last thing. Oh, thank you. One last thing. We're not there. One last thing. Two last things. Now, this is very serious. The organizers of this event, they cornered me backstage. And they threatened me, gang. They threatened me. They threatened to break my legs if I didn't get them at least 1,000 more followers for Colorado FFA on TikTok. This is true. So please, I'm begging you, smash that follow button so they don't smash my legs, okay? Smash that follow button. And one last thing. I want to ask you guys a favor. It's been so awesome and lovely to be here. One of the greatest honors of my life to be here to speak with you guys. The energy is just insane. I wonder if I can get a selfie with you guys. Can I get a selfie with you guys? Is that cool? Is that all right? All right. So I'm going to face this way. And when I do, pretend that you just heard the greatest speech you ever heard, okay? Are you ready? Can we do that in 3, 2, 1, let's go! Thank you guys, it's been a tremendous honor. Enjoy the rest of the convention. You all are awesome. Thank you so much for letting me be here. Take care, everybody. Take care, thank you.